Welcome to the Outdoor Biz Podcast, your home for inspiring conversations with outdoor insiders. Each week, author, speaker, adventurer, and outdoor industry veteran Rick Saez talks in-depth with iconic brand founders, sales and marketing pros, product designers, and industry rising stars. Listen in when Rick's guests offer actionable advice to land your ideal industry gig and grow your outdoor career. Catch us again when the conversation shifts to the hottest outdoor products, destinations, and the latest industry insights. And now, here's Rick.
Welcome to episode 267 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast with John Faber from Envoy B2B and Mike Massey from Locally, brought to you by Envoy. This is our second episode with John and Mike, and they tell us how Envoy and Locally help brands and retailers get smart with local consumer product trends and locally popular products, get more on trend with consumer insights, keep stores replenished, and more easily and quickly discover inventory holes. Be sure to listen to episode 264, our first conversation that dropped on February 23rd. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, Rick. Thanks for having us back. Yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah. Mike, how you doing?
Yeah, definitely. Excited to continue this conversation. Thank you for hosting.
Yeah, glad to do it. The last conversation was fun. We got a lot of good feedback from the episode. If you guys missed that, it's
totally
part one. We'll link to that in the show notes. So let's go back to January 2020. What was going on in your worlds back then? I'm sure we were all ready for a kick-ass year and big plans, right?
Yeah. Let's see. I think in terms of Envoy and myself, we had a team, including myself, at OR, I think it was, right? In January.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And I remember that being quite a good show for us, actually. I think we came back with a ton of opportunities in terms of new brands we were talking to. One of the things that's kind of interesting is I think there was a prevalence around this conversation of, what is this show good at anymore? What should this show be? What is its purpose? Is this a marketing event? Is it replaceable? Is anybody writing business here? Those kind of things. I remember being in a lot of those kind of conversations. And I think there was even a bunch of op-eds like almost immediately after. That was one of the big industry conversations going on, along with, I think there was a lot of climate action initiatives at that OR as well. Yeah. And then you're right. COVID hit and everything kind of changed, right? OR canceled in April. But yeah, I think in January, we weren't really privy to what was coming quite yet, honestly. I think we saw it offshore, but we didn't see the impact quite yet. But we were in a very positive place for 2020 for sure.
Yeah, big plans, I'll bet. How about you, Mike? Same thing?
Same thing. We had just come back from ISPO. We head out to OR. We had a ton of meetings, just like John. We walked out of the show optimistic that we were going to crush our budget, even though it was like the first 2 weeks of the year.
Right.
Like, oh man, this is great. We got, so many people, who are talking about our mission, and it was very exciting, and the team was excited. And then I remember by the end of the month, I remember spending time. My wife works from home and she's in the medical field. And I remember by the end of January, being in her office, jumping up and down and going, this is really bad. This is really bad. And her trying to talk me off the walls. And she's like, you don't know anything about medicine. Just shut up. It's okay. And I'm like, you watch. This is the bad one. And then,
it all changed.
I did think it was going to be a lot worse than it is. I mean, in hindsight, it was bad. It's terrible. But my sense at the end of January was that this was going to be a run recover event. It was going to be devastating.
Yeah. It was pretty devastating.
I mean, that was definitely the feeling inside of Envoy as well. We went totally virtual, the beginning of February, almost immediately. I just made this call and we said, we're fortunate enough to be able to do our work from somewhere else. Let's do that. And we tried to rally the company around this new way to work with each other. And that was February, was figuring out, while of course keeping an eye on how crazy things were getting, which was really hard to do. Everyone was in that spot. But I don't know that it was until probably April-ish or around there where it became pretty understood that the market was going to change. Everything was going to change. That we started thinking again about, okay, well, are there things that we need to do to Envoy to become more helpful to our clients?
Yeah.
I think fortunately in the B2B space, and I would imagine you too, Mike, a lot of what we had just became more relevant and more useful. And we didn't really have to invent a lot of new things. It was more, okay, well, now there's this gap, right? In terms of we're not going to be meeting in person.
Yep.
So how do we connect? And a lot of brands woke up to the idea and the messaging that we have been throwing out for years now, which is, well, there's this destination for that. It doesn't replace it, but it is a useful tool to rally connections with your retailers around. So there wasn't this, okay, we got to build a bunch of stuff real quick to be helpful to our brands and retailers. It was more a shining a light on, here's some ways to use what we've got that will really help you guys out.
Yeah. Mike, did you feel the same about that?
I do. Like John, we had been working on solutions that fortunately applied to the situation rather nicely.
Yeah.
And between sorting out opportunities with potential partners, onboarding retailers and brands, and things like that, we were excited to be able to like bridge the gap between the COVID shopping behavior. And what's really curious now is that we're almost a year past this thing getting started. And a lot of those shopping behaviors have kind of stuck. And a lot of the optimizations that John's worked on, that we worked on it locally, that other ones of our partners have worked on, those have become kind of norm for consumers.
Exactly. Yeah, we're gonna this pick up and delivery stuff is here to stay. That's not going away. I think we talked
Mike,
about that last time. Yeah,
Mike, I'm thinking back to January now again. That was actually the release that we put our first integration out in. I think was in January or the end of January, something like that. And it kind of almost was like this thing of, how did you guys plan that? Right? Like it had to be this. It had to be this reaction to the market, but it really wasn't. It was an extension of a lot of like almost 6 to 8 months of work prior to that. It just landed at the time. But yeah. I think the other thing that I think around what's kind of happened, I was mentioning there was this kind of these questions circulating around the show in January about what is it good for and should we use, what's the purpose of this? And I think come March and really, I guess the next OR when it just got canceled, I guess that was April, we all got an opportunity to try that out and kind of answer that question and be like, well, what is it good for? And I think that's kind of where we're at, which is, okay, well, it certainly has its place. And I can get into some of the things we're hearing from retailers that suggest that. But I think we're at this point of, well, what do we bring back that we've learned from our time away from trade shows? What do we want them to be? And what are they not going to be good at? And what are we going to do with these relationships that have actually gotten stronger upon being more direct and more personal between brands and retailers rather than rallying around something that is fun and very community driven? But maybe actually isn't the most personal experience. And that would be the more overwhelming response I think we've got from retailers through surveying is they want personal experiences. And that's very easily confused with, well, then we need to go to a trade show. Yeah. But that's not what it is really. Those aren't personal experiences. The personal experiences they're talking about are the ones that the rep offers by walking in the front door.
Yeah. And you don't get that at a trade show. You're right. I mean, a lot of times it's just so busy. And I think it's interesting too, a lot of the things that we just in general, business-wise, not only specifically some of the things you did, but a lot of things that the business world had talked about, Zoom and meetings online and whatnot, this forced that issue to happen and to take place. And everybody's embraced it. I'm not sure that the internet was ready for it, but we all adapted to Zoom and we're having meetings and it's just a way of doing business now. So a lot of the travel may not come back.
Yeah. And I think this is kind of one of those really interesting nexuses of like things happening right now. And I think as a digital B2B company, and Mike, I honestly don't know where you sit on this. I expect that we're in a similar spot, but people expect us to embrace this idea of everything's going digital. We all have to go digital right now, right? And that really isn't what the research is showing. And honestly, where Envoy's, the thread that we're trying to weave is either. When you look at like, what retailers want in terms of our latest research, which you can get off our website, they've re-upped on research that we did 2 years ago, and they are loud and clear. They're saying, what I want is personal contact from sales reps. You look at a word cloud of what they want or what they miss right now based on the market changes and things going virtual. They want what looks like touch, it looks like see, it looks like feel, it looks like rep. Those are the things that they're interested in. What they're not is, what didn't come up was virtual. What didn't come up is augmented reality. What didn't come up is, those are almost like, I guess, an interesting thing that I heard from a retailer recently. Basically, brands are overcorrecting. They're overcorrecting and putting all of this emphasis into, we have to make our entire digital sell-in, or our entire sell-in digital. And part of that is bringing our buyers into this immersive digital experience. And some are going really much further into this augmented space and all of this. And you think about a premium buyer. Essentially, this retailer was saying, well, you're putting me inside of a video game. What do you think I'm going to react with? Yeah. I'm a premium buyer that makes decisions on touching and feeling and working with a rep. This is not a replacement for, and this is not, in fact, where the slant of this conversation was where I think we should be going. So this person actually got kind of disenfranchised with the brand. It's actually working against the brand. So I think the premise of our research that we're saying is actually the brands that are going to do well in this next phase of wholesale are the ones that double down on their rep relationships and the personalization and use that as the bridge to continue what I think has been reinforced through COVID, which is retailers want personal contact, and that's the secret ingredient. And then you look into what Envoy and Locally are doing in terms of the level of personalization that we can help a rep provide, and that's the angle. It's not a replacement; it's an augmentation. And really stay tuned to what retailers want, not what you think you need to do as a brand to connect with them in terms of digital investments.
Yeah. And as we talked last time, you guys provide those digital tools. They are looking for a certain amount of digital tools, and you guys provide those tools, right? There are ways that they can tap in and, as we talked about, optimize their inventory and keep the pegs full. And those are the tools that they're looking for. They still want the old-fashioned selling.
That's personalization. That's what I would qualify as personalization. Providing them with the best assortment for their store that's going to sell through.
Right.
Definitely.
Perfect. Yeah.
But doing that isn't done, and this is what I mean in terms of overcorrection. Doing that isn't overcorrecting all the way to we're going to do that inside of this experience that loses the core principles of what a buyer wants, which is touch, feel, see, and rep.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So we need to maintain those values as we try to personalize.
Empower the reps. Yeah. Mike, did you guys do anything to adapt to this changing environment locally in your offices and stuff?
We were fortunate in the sense that we already all work remotely. I mean, basically the entire company works remotely or scattered all over the United States. I mean, the expertise that was required for us to get started and recruit people is just kind of spread out among a lot. So it's pretty easy. It's just kind of a rolling curve for us.
Gotcha.
We didn't have to take any dramatic steps. But we were also dealing with lots of existing clients and potentially incoming new clients that had a lot of needs coming out of the gate. And it was really cool to watch. And along the lines of what John was saying, it was really cool to watch the brands that saw the opportunity, or the retailers that saw the opportunity as being every man for themselves, versus the ones that reached out and said, okay, well, we're all in this together. Brands and retailers have to work together more than ever to ensure that, that everybody remains healthy, or this won't really work. The ones who really just grasped after, this is just an opportunity for me, and I'm gonna do all these things to make sure that they actually, it was counterintuitive. They were the ones that had the hardest time gaining traction, whereas a lot of the brands, especially the ones that John and I collaborate with, those brands were really reaching out and making sure that they weren't siloing the opportunity and keeping it all to themselves. They were making sure that handoffs were occurring to local stores and keeping those stores healthy. And so suddenly we look up at the end of 6 months and we're like, oh my God, we were expecting half of the retail base to go away. Right. And it was exactly the opposite. There was no one went away.
Right.
So I think that I think it was really great.
Yeah.
And relationships were strengthened. And I think that's something we hit on in the last podcast, was those that doubled down on their existing partnerships, and specifically talking about brand to retailer, retailer to partner, and that's what got everybody through. And now we have a decision to kind of, what parts of that are we going to augment and keep, or rather the converse, what parts of what wasn't working or what we weren't doing, do we actually just want to let die on the vine? And what parts of it do we want to reincorporate back into our new model, which is working? And those are tough questions. And inside of all of that, there's this thing happening out there with trade shows, which is 80% of their revenue evaporated, and they're looking for ways to exist still. And are they the ones that are going to invent the future? Those that didn't have the model to get through what occurred? I guess I just don't think so. I think they've got a great product and offering, but I don't count on them to make the next big step for us all.
Well,
in terms of where this is going.
Yeah, let's dig a little deeper into that, because we were going to talk about that near the end. We're going to take a little break and give some love to our sponsor. Envoy B2B is a wholesale content and e-commerce platform for your entire team. Their tools and services are designed to help you create dynamic content, increase your speed of sale, and bring you closer to your retailers. Envoy B2B provides the technology you need to empower your sales reps and support your retail channel. That way, you'll maximize local consumer product trends and locally popular products, get more on trend with consumer insights, keep shelves replenished more easily, and quickly discover inventory holes. Visit Envoy B2B today and get those sales moving north. That's EnvoyB2B.com. Now, back to the show. the current state of trade shows, I think, is definitely in flux. I mean, everybody seems to think that there's some timing issues and travel issues and all kinds of things. What are your guys' thoughts on those?
Yeah, Mike, you want to go first?
Yeah, so right. I still think that like the larger format trade shows will add value in the sense of bringing the community together of an industry, the broader community. I don't know that the big format trade shows are going to be able to put themselves back into the box of like actually taking orders on the floor of trade shows. I just don't see that like being a thing anymore.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's a reason for community. And then the other thing that is kind of occurring that I think is really powerful is this micro trade show format, whether it's the grassroots show or whether it's Trek holding like, a Trek only trade show or
those regional rep shows,
or the big gear show like Kenji's, offering. I think all of those will gain relevance because they're better curated. They're going to be kind of like
I love it.
Microbrewery of trade shows.
Yep.
Whereas the very large format, I mean, those you just get lost in those.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult to make personal connections just wandering around a trade show, like going to one brand's keg hour and then sitting in chairs as powerful.
You are so right, Mike.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, what I hear you saying is a continuation of kind of what we were talking about a little bit earlier, which is the larger format trade shows. I think everyone was arriving at the point in January. What's important about this is community, is us getting together and doing something as a community.
Mm-hmm.
But what I don't think that you don't lump into that is personal, that those aren't personal experiences. And if what we're saying is what retailers want moving forward is largely personal experiences to help them do their buying and do great buying. What I love about what you said, Mike, is basically that's happening at these smaller shows. That's the personal experience. Like that's where that personal buying experience is happening.
Yep.
And those are the places that are going to have some success. And the brands that get that and go towards that and acknowledge, okay, these larger format trade shows, what they're for is X, Y, and Z, community marketing and new product launches. But what we need are tools that help us do our buying. And actually, my experience over the past 6 months suggests that I could do that really well directly with my retailer with the right tools, that there's a path there that is really easily accessible, less costly, honestly, and it aligns more closely with what we see retailers want. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. It's really interesting what's happening in the trade show space with all the buying for this new thing that potentially exists that's going to help them be relevant again. But I think everyone's just asking, well, what is that thing?
I think it's still, nobody has the answers. What do you think about the concept? Some people have come on the show and talked about this concept of a bigger event, right? Like a South by Southwest, where it's a gigantic gathering of the tribe and we get together and do our outdoor business for a few days. And then there's a split. So maybe there's a big concert day and the consumers come in, and then there's an opportunity for brands to stick around and sell if they want. Is that almost too big, do you think?
I think that there is a calculus involved that takes you from one-to-one relationship where you have a rep standing in a store talking to an owner of a business.
Yep.
And then the other end of the spectrum is the population of the earth attending one giant trade show where literally there's no personal connections at all.
Right.
There's some type of calculus that connects those two with 100% and 0%. And in my sense, the bigger you make it, the less you're able to create a cohesive message for why you're here. So it might be cool to have an enormous trade show with 1 million people attend, but the diminishment is going to occur all along that line.
Right. That's a good point. That's right.
Yes, because there'll be less of a standard across to all, right? So, which is fine. If you're hoping to do business at a trade show, the hardest part is everybody's in all their own systems, right? And there's plays happening currently in terms of, well, what if we could get them all on this system or on this? It's just that place always leads to a closed community, a closed door. You're only going to participate at this level until you adopt this platform and this platform or subscribe to these things. That's just too much of a barrier for getting really very big with the community. Right. So you've got to decide what the trade show is going to be good at. And I think the smartest path forward is this has happened in other industries, is an open way, a way for everybody to be involved. If we really want everybody to be involved, and secondarily want the show to be valuable in terms of buying, which I'm honestly in agreement with Mike. I just don't think that's a value of a large community event. But if that is what's going to happen, then there needs to be an open way for brands to bring your own platform, become integrated be a part of this world that is going to allow for frictionless commerce no matter what you're on. But man, that is a big idea and would take a lot of coordination amongst competitors and partners that it remains very elusive. And I think even more elusive now that we see trade shows, trade show companies purchasing B2B companies. It's becoming a B2B war out there, essentially. Yeah. And nobody wants that. That's not good for brands and retailers.
Yeah.
It's not good for them.
Yeah, and we're still not through the pandemic. I mean, we don't know what the other side of this looks like, although we have glimmers of hope. But these gigantic gatherings may not ever happen again. It might just be too big, right?
Totally. But I think what we have going for us is at least one of the big things that came through in our research was you asked retailers what they thought of these kind of virtual stand-in events. And totally these events may be tear it out, throw it away, never going to happen again type thing. But maybe they were a gap solution, I guess is what I'm saying. But they weren't impressed with them. They weren't excited about them. What they did is reinforce the need for what retailers had. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh man, you're right. Now I really know there is nothing to replace standing side by side with my rep and working through the line.
Right. Yeah.
They reinforced. Yeah. It didn't show them the future. It confirmed what they've been saying, which is, okay, my best sell-in experience is when I work really closely with a rep and when I can touch and feel the product.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, 75% of them essentially in our survey said, now these virtual standing events, not for me. So I think...
Were there any online events that you heard about that were kind of closer than others? I mean, a lot of them were, like you say, the video game thing was not a good thing, but there were some that I think they weren't as bad as that. Did you guys hear about any of those? Online? Sort of, that's close, but not quite there.
Some of the comments we got in our survey from retailers that were positive, I guess I could go there, would be there was a handful around, it was great to see everybody. It was great to talk about some issues. And of course, it was all COVID information sharing of what are you doing to get through and all of that kind of stuff. But those are, I think, largely you got to put these things in just a different bucket. They were stand-in events. They might not need to be compared, but I do think that they signal towards a direction that the retailer cares about, and smart brands are going to pick up on that and be like, okay, what I can do to stand out right now is figure out a way to work really closely with my retailer and forge this conversation with them that isn't, here's the future, we're going this way with our sell-in. What you can expect is less contact with our reps in your stores because we're going to be doing X, Y, and Z. To our path is, it's kind of like the same thing a lot of companies are doing right now, probably. What's the path to get back to work or not get back to work, to use your office again? We need, I think smart brands are engaging with that right now, saying, okay, working with my retailers, talking to them about the ways that the next season's going to go in terms of kind of friction, in a very frictionless way, working with them while being personal and remaining open to the idea of things kind of going back to normal. And that's okay. That's a big part of that's a big part of the success we were all having.
Yeah, it really wasn't broken. It was working fine. So.
I don't know. It's an interesting place right now, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of conversations that are going to continue to go on about that thing. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about how retailers and brands can work with you guys, get connected with you guys. John, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So, we primarily work with the brand, and then the brand brings in the retailers. So really, we're talking about brands here. Brands for us, I would say, of course, we've got a sales team at Envoy that is really well versed on helping brands make a good decision on not just the platform, but how you're going to use the platform. That's ultimately where you arrive is, okay, I've got this platform. How am I going to put it into use? And I would say, one of the best things that Envoy is great at is just asking, well, how do you want to use it? But showing you the ways you could use it and some strategies that go along with using it that are going to be impactful given the conditions of today. So I think in terms of how brand gets going with us, it's a simple call and an email. And then from there, typically it takes, we can run or we can walk, but often we walk. And that can take a week or two of just working out a solution in terms of how we're going to prescribe Envoy, essentially based on how their business runs and what their team looks like. And then it can take anywhere from a week or less to set up our core platform and get you going into what would be an onboarding strategy of a way that we work on together to actually invite your retailers, your partners into the platform. That's a big part of it. Or in our turnkey connector, if you've got like a back-end inventory management system or something like NetSuite or TradeGecko or something that can connect with SFTP or something. Those solutions can take a little bit longer to implement, but still weeks. I think that's a big competitive advantage of ours is we can do these really sophisticated, these really sophisticated integrated solutions in a matter of weeks versus what used to be standard, even just as little as a year and a half ago, really is telling a brand, hey, it's going to take a few months to get you up on the platform. Brands were okay with that, and they're not anymore. That's just that's not acceptable. Like with the experiences they've been having on the D2C side and with other platforms in terms of being able to easily launch a platform, they expect that now on the wholesale side. And that is what wholesale providers need to provide. And that's what we have. So even in our turnkey connectors, it's weeks to get live. It's not until we get to an enterprise level client, brands doing billions or having a multi-global footprint and several different reps all over, several different rep groups globally, maybe several brands under all of that. When we get into that space, certainly our onboarding time can take 2 to 3 months to really do this well. But that's often because we're ripping out a platform and putting in ours. Right. So in terms of getting started with us, it's a phone call. It's a matter of weeks to really, in most cases, to getting going. And that's really important because we can make an impact that kind of first season if you choose to do this in between seasons.
Yeah, you can get going right away. That's good. Yeah.
Yep.
Mike, how about you guys?
I think we're probably very similar in every aspect that John just covered, but we have teams that work specifically only with retailers. Right now, I think we work with about 50,000 retailers. And then we have teams that work with primarily the brands. And so we work with maybe 400 or 500 brands. And there's teams that specialize in each one of those things. So whether if you're a retailer and you want to get involved in locally, it's easy to get to that from locally.com, and then vice versa for the brand. But our team spends all day long reaching out and talking to people. And then we've got a lot like what John just described. We've got a client success team that can get a plain vanilla application of our platform up and running with a brand in a matter of days.
Wow, that's quick.
We've had brands go live in 24 hours. More sophisticated applications, perhaps we've got a solution that like overlaps Envoy and locally and does data, some consumer behavior data sharing, things like that. Inventory sharing on behalf of the retailer. Those are obviously much more sophisticated types of integrations, and we have little check boxes along the way to make sure that we're preserving everybody's right to own their own data. Sure. That's really critical about what John and I do together. We draw a hard line of what data is shareable so that we're not creating competition between retailers or brands, and retailers are the hybrid of those various things. But anyway, it's relatively easy to get live. Within the outdoor space where John and I primarily operate, we're pretty prevalent. We work with almost all of the retailers there. Ideally, we want to get to the spot where we're serving the Envoy locally solution as a hybrid solution across a variety of different channels.
Right. That's the opportunity, to expand out. Yeah. And so what's next for you guys without giving away any state secrets or any? What do you
Well, I think it's a theme. I think the theme here is personalization. Like that's the thing that really, I think in a number of ways is the nexus for how brands and retailers weathered a lot of the challenges was both, I guess it comes out in a number of ways. The personalization that a rep continued to give and support a retailer with helped retailers in a number of ways, but also the personalization of the assortment that they gave them based on what their local market needed at the time. And then helping that retailer actually be personal still in providing a personal contact to their consumer. And so it's this chain of personalization that I think Mike and I and locally and Envoy that's our path. So expect more help in personalizing brand supports retail. And also from the retailer's perspective, how the retailer gets engaged with the brand and says, well, here's what's good. Here's what's working.
Gotcha.
And so I would say personalization is just a really big thing moving forward for us from a data-driven perspective. And not in a way that it replaces the rep, but that it gives the rep a lot of purpose and insights into being that conduit.
I was just going to say, it gives them more knowledge. More.
Yep. And the human touch and all of that on top of it. So yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I'm just thinking real quick. What was it? It was probably 5, even more years ago, where the Death of the B2B Salesman report came out by Gartner, right? And you know what I mean? Let's think about that. That didn't happen. Yeah. And it didn't even happen in the vacuum of COVID. You think that it would be, okay, reps are gone now. Everybody's stepping in with this platform that's going to take their position. And that didn't even do it. So, actually what we're hearing is it's the one thing that retailers want. So someone needs to rewrite that report in the context of COVID.
Well, you go all the way
happening.
Back to,
it's like,
I figure, what's the name of that movie, the Willie Loman movie or whatever, where that guy was the shoe salesman or fuller brush salesman or something, and it was eventually going to, fade away and go be gone. And over the years, it just adapted. It just changed. It got more and more personal. And I think that's what you guys are saying here. It's going to continue to get more and more personal, because at the end of the day, the reps have the knowledge of the brand, and the retailer, they can help, like you guys do, blend that and make it more successful for everybody.
And what's fundamental is what Locally is working on. I mean, the personalization down to being able to put the product in the store that a consumer in that market wants and help the brand and the retailer out in the process is just gold right now. And that's what needs to stick and explode, because if anything we've seen from COVID, it's that, right? That's the magic to keeping products going locally.
Right. Mike, anything to add?
Well, I want to add to what John just said, and what I spend my days talking about is really simple. About a year ago, throughout this whole process, it really dawned on me what we do as a company. We operate in this B2C space where you've got business to consumer, but we're really the only thing that matters in this space is the consumer. Okay, like we can all talk about like how we do things and how we share data, and who we love, and all that. The consumer walks away from that, it's over. So what matters and what's coming from Locally and what's coming with Envoy is, man, how do we keep the consumer engaged in a way that delights them? And like, how do we do that in an environment where it's hard to get footfall to a store? How do we get people in the store? How do we make sure that like when that person walks in the store, they walk out with a product, that they walk out with the product that they happen to be looking at online? So what we're looking at is, how do we deliver personalized marketing that drives the consumer to the local retail store? And why is that a win to the brand and the retailer instead of a win to the brand or the retailer? It really doesn't matter.
Totally.
It's only a win if the consumer is delighted by the overall experience. And when you look out there and you look at the most admired brands and retailers in the world today, you think of Apple or maybe a Lululemon or something like that, and they have completely hybridized the notion of what a brand and what a retailer are. And and both brands and retailers need to look at that and say, consumers are delighted by this experience. When you go to Apple, they've got what you're looking for. The stores are packed. Lululemon, their brand value is through the roof. There is opportunities here that having the right thing in stock, just-in-time inventory, auto replenishment, all these kind of things are going to bring over the next decade to retailers. And I think it's going to be a paradigm shift from the big monolithic e-commerce merchants that basically have unlimited investor money.
Yep, I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, if every boardroom, every entrepreneur that started a brand, every CEO at a mid-market brand, every boardroom at the enterprise brand needs to hear that last minute of Mike right there. Like that.
We'll clip that out, and we'll have that as the, the teaser.
It's not an or, it's an and. It's an and.
Yeah.
And of course it is. And now post-COVID, retailers even get it more than they did too. They're like, oh man, yes, this idea of shop online, pick up in store, same day pickup, or any of that. Yes, I'm open to it. Everybody's open to it. Someone needs to
always say yes.
Yes, brands just need to step into this place and say, we're going to be your partner on it.
Yeah. No,
that's it.
I think you're right. I think you nailed it. Yeah. We'll cut that clip out and we'll use that as teaser.
Yep.
Maybe we'll make a t-shirt.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
great.
And.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to add to those thoughts? Or
I think I got everything out, Rick. I think that's went really well, and excited to have an avenue to share all of it, and appreciate you opening up your mic for Mike and I to come on board and go for it.
Happy to do it. I love these conversations. It's
look forward to sharing this all around.
Yeah, cool. Yep. Well, we'll get this out. It's going to drop next Tuesday. So it'll drop, what is that, March 14th, 13th? I don't have my dates in front of me, but we'll share it out. And we'll also reference episode 264, which is part 1 of this conversation. So make sure you guys listen to both. And how can they follow up with you guys again? Where's the best way to reach you, Mike?
All of the contact information for us is locally.com. It's brands at locally.com and retailers at locally.com. Both of those will be handled in short order.
Perfect. Cool. John, same?
Yep. And for us, just EnvoyB2B.com is great. Just go right through our contact form. It's something that we reach out to almost immediately. So that'd be the quickest way. But if there's other thought leaders out there, of course, that I think want to engage with us in these kind of things, I think both Mike and I are open to, of course. Hit me up on LinkedIn and be happy to continue to talk.
Maybe we should put together a session at the show too.
Sure.
Just coordinate, grab a beer and sit around.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yep.
I'll see if I can't make that happen. Yeah.
Thanks,
guys.
We're going to do a show. We're going to be at a show.
Oh my gosh, that'd be beautiful.
It's looking like it. It's looking. We get to see everybody. That's for sure.
That'd be great.
Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. All right. See you.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Outdoor Biz Podcast. Be sure to visit our website, theoutdoorbizpodcast.com, where you'll find show notes with links to everything we talked about and more. Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you'll never miss an episode. And while you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or spread the word and tell a friend about the show. That would really help us out too. Be sure to tune in every week. And thanks again for listening to the Outdoor Biz Podcast with Rick Saez.